Welcome to the Muster Point, the podcast where veterans regroup, reconnect, and swap stories that will make you laugh, think, or cringe harder than a recruit on inspection day. I'm Stu Mendelson, a former Royal Engineer, a self-proclaimed coffee snob, and the bloke who never says no to a brew, even when it tastes like it's been filtered through a sock. With me is my co-host, Steve Black, ex-Royal Tank Regiment, the king of Squaddie Banter, and the only man I know who could turn a safety briefing into stand-up comedy.
Cheers, Stu. Yeah, I've been known to wind people up a bit. It's a bit of a gift I've got. Like you said, I'm here to keep the banter flowing, maybe share a story or two. Welcome to the Muster Point, everyone. It's our first episode and we're kicking things off with a proper introduction. What this podcast is all about and why you've ended up in the right place for a laugh, a chat, and maybe a few dodgy memories.
Exactly. This episode's the briefing, the roll call, whatever you want to call it. We'll talk about the Muster Point and what it means to us, why we started it, and what's coming down the line. Whether it's laugh out loud tales from the forces, the kind of honest chats you only have at 3 a.m. on Stag, or just some light banter to brighten your day. We're here for all of it.
So whether you're a veteran, still serving, or just curious about what military life is really like, spoiler, it's 50% heroics, 50% absolute nonsense. Grab a brew, tea, coffee, or something stronger if you're feeling spicy. Settle in, because this is the Muster Point, where the banter's flowing, the support's solid, and no one gets left behind. Right, let's crack on.
But there we go. That was the theme tune to the Muster Point, a bit of a wacky marching sort of drum beat there. As we said in the introduction, I'm Stu Mendelson, ex-Royal Engineer. I served between 2005 and 2010. Sadly, on Op Herrick, what was it? Op Herrick 11. Yeah, towards the end of 2009, I was blowing up and I lost my right eye and I left the army into Civvy Street with no sort of support. Completely got lost in life, spiraled into addiction. And here I am now, 14 years later, wanted to do something about it because I still don't believe that the MOD, the military, is doing enough for veterans. As I said before, with me, Steve. Steve, hello.
Hello. I left 2RTR in 2010. I joined in 2003. Since then, I've had several jobs in engineering roles, always done shift work. I found, through talking to my friends and myself, there's a lot of gaps. A lot of people are struggling with various problems. Because of that, I've done a few volunteering jobs, one of them being a caseworker for SAFA. On my days off, I try and help veterans or just military sort of, I keep myself involved in the military life. And that's one of the reasons why we started the Muster Point, to keep in the loop and support each other.
Excellent. Any chance of a bruise, Steve? You seem very nervous. Forgive us, people. It is the first time. We are very nervous, but we're going to try and get through this. So what can we expect on this first episode? Do you know, Steve?
I don't.
You don't? He doesn't know, people. Bloody hell. Thick Tanky, as he's been called many times before. He's here to make the brews. Right, what can we expect? So we're going to tell you guys a bit about the Muster Point, what we've got going on, what you can expect from us at the Muster Point. And it's all about supporting veterans, not just the banter, right, Steve?
Well, I suppose not.
So we're going to be looking at some veterans news or armed forces news and having a bit of banter around that. We've got some questions because this is the thing. It's all about the community. And we want to hear from our one and only listener, who, by the way, is in the RAF. But what can we do? So, yeah, we really want to hear from you. We're going to have some questions and a bit of banter about experiences in the military. And then we're going to go on to, as I said, what the podcast's all about and what to expect in the future. And the other thing I think is vitally important for support, we're going to give a shout out to veterans charities, people, organisations that Steve and I have come across in our time since leaving the military, and just because to me it's all about I don't know about you, Steve, but when I came out of the military, I didn't know which way to turn. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm the same. I chose drink, to be quite honest with you. Down the pub every day. The only real sense of the brotherhood I had was following a football team, going home and away, drinking.
What team was that, Steve?
Spurs.
Who? Spurs. How are they getting on at the moment, mate?
I don't know. I've given up watching football.
Given up.
I've had enough.
I don't think they're doing too well. But to be fair, I'm a Luton Town fan, so football's maybe not the subject we want to be talking about. So that's what we've got going on. We'll go into more detail. So first off, a little icebreaker. And this one's for you, Steve, and then I've got a little story about this as well. But what's the weirdest thing that you or you've witnessed someone carry during a tab?
I've got a good one. I don't know, I was probably about 19 years old. We had a CFT the next day. We'd been out, we used to call it Squaddie. Thursday night in Fallinbostel was Squaddie. Been out all night, ended up in Char Char's discotheque till early hours.
Was Char Char's the sort of place where you wipe your feet on the way out?
Definitely, yeah. Got back in the block, packed me Bergen, didn't have anything to pack. We used to have a Challenger 1 track link as a doorstop. I wrapped that up in a DOS bag, threw it in my Bergen, went round the CFT route. When we finished, they weighed me Bergen. It was over 30 kilo, and I had big chunks of meat missing out of me back.
Nice.
That was definitely the weirdest one I've experienced.
Because that was the thing. I remember so many times, like the duty sprog of the squadron, he'd turn up, he'd have like a kettle in there,
Iron,
like a pair of old boots, DOS bags rolled up with all sorts of scrotty underwear in there. So I'll tell you what, the funniest, and thank God it wasn't me. So we was on a PT parade. We're all lined up, and we're about to do a CFT. And the PTIs, everyone's mustering around, lined up, and that Bergen's on the deck. My mucker, no names mentioned this far. I'll have to clear it with him. Anyway, he needs a piss, so he runs into the guard room, which was stood opposite. He's like that, right? Off he goes, and I turn around and I see this massive, and I mean massive concrete block lying outside the guard room. So me and a few boys go there, pick it up, dash all the stuff he's got from already in his Bergen out, and we load it up with this massive concrete block, and we pack in everything round so he can't feel it. Anyway, sort of he's still in the toilet. We've all got ready. PTIs are like, right, get your Bergens on and let's go, boys. He comes running out of the toilet, right? And he hasn't got a chance to think. He literally tries picking up his Bergen. His arm almost falls off his body. And he's like that, oh, PTI, like they've put something. And the PTI's just, fuck off, mate. Get that Bergen on you and crack on. Anyway, he manages to get it on and off he goes. And I'll tell you what, I've never seen someone hanging out of their arse so much. It broke him. And this boy was fit. He was a fit young man. But and to be fair, he done the 8 mile CFT. Fair play to him. He was in bits afterwards. And but yeah, it was just the way that it just worked out so well. And I think that's the thing in it. Those well-timed opportunities are there to be had in the military.
Yeah, he's had knee replacements now, but...
Oh, yeah. No, he has actually. You are actually right there, because I remember... So he did. He actually got medically discharged afterwards because his knees were knackered. Yeah, shit. Sorry about that, mate. If you're listening, probably not. But yeah, hopefully we'll get him to call in and we can speak to him. Because that's the other thing. As we said, it's your community. So anyone that's listening, like, phone us in. We're on like social media, Facebook, the Muster Point Veterans. We're on, what else are we on? We're on...
Military app.
Are we on the military app? Oh, I didn't know that. How'd you get that? Sort that out. Does anyone use that military app?
Like I know called Dave sorted it out.
We're on all your social media, so get in contact with us, because, as I said, it's your community. So, like, we'll either ring you if you're brave enough to answer, or we'll give you shout outs. Anything else, Steve?
No.
Right, so first up, we've got a bit of Veterans and Armed Forces news. Steve, what you got?
Former Marine called Mark Ormrod has broke a record. He's only got one arm. He's got no legs. He pulled a 2.5 ton truck, 100 metres.
Well, and that's a world record.
World record. Fair play.
Was there a certain time, was there? Pass. I mean, it's a fucking effort, though, isn't it?
With one arm.
With one arm and no legs.
No legs, yeah.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Like, how many... We were discussing earlier on about the blokes that Like, who's your mate with the motorbikes?
Oh, Murray Ambro
Yeah, go on.
races super bikes around tracks with no legs,
How does he do that?
stupidly.
Stupidly. Yeah, you'd have to be stupid. But that's the thing, innit? Like, waking up in Camp Bastion, getting flown back to the UK, whatever, no legs, being told that they're never going to walk. They'll be confined to a wheelchair. And then, like, within a year, they're on the old blades, aren't they, running at the Paralympics.
I've got a mate, I won't say his name, but we know him as Fivehead because he's got a massive forehead.
Fivehead.
He's only got one arm. Well, he's got an arm, but it don't work. And he rides motorbikes.
Poor fucker. What? So he's got a massive forehead and he's diffy an arm.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
And he rides motorbikes.
Nice. What do you mean he rides motorbikes?
Oh, like a motorbike. He rides it with one arm. He sellotapes it to the handlebar. Yeah.
Well, what's the insurance like on that?
He's always falling off, though.
Oh, is he? Bloody hell. Maybe we can get him on here to have a chat and tell us how he does it. But yeah, Mark Ormerod, fair play to him. That shows true courage, true commitment, and that, like, nobody should really have an excuse, should they?
Nah, definitely. I struggle to walk up the stairs and I've got 2 legs.
Quality. Right, what other news we got? I've got a headline here. What does it say? Grenadier Guards undertake fit role inspection ahead of royal duties. And I'm going to have to get it up. I don't know if you can get it up on your phone, Steve. But, I mean, I thought that's pretty much the main role of the Grenadier Guards, royal duties, standing on Buckingham Palace.
I thought that's what they enjoyed doing, polishing stuff and standing there.
Yeah. Well, with those big bear skins on.
Yeah, I thought they loved it.
Do you know what? Well, a funny story about royal duties. And so my regiment were on. It was their rota. We had a turn on doing royal duties. I don't know what anyone's putting a royal engineer on a royal palace for, but I ended up missing it because, well, it sounds horrendous, doesn't it? But it turns out, so some of the guys, and this is a regular thing, would be stood there. Mate, it's not Buckingham Palace because obviously they're behind the fence and that, but I don't know, maybe St James's Palace or one of the others. You're actually sort of like the public can sort of get near, as it were. And one of the guys, or a few of the guys, the amount of phone numbers with women coming up to them and putting them in their top pocket, just dipping their phone number in there, was incredible. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, you still got to stand there.
Still got to stand
Polish
there, haven't
everything.
you? Yeah.
We, I think it was in 2008, my regiment, we had to go to Buckingham Palace and get a new standard. Our drill was shocking as a regiment. So we had the Welsh Guards come and shout and scream at us for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We stood there in the sun. One of my mates, he thought he'd take advantage of the sun. So he put some tanning oil over his face. Stood there all day in the sun. He had blisters on his nose, his cheeks. He was in the right state. But the Welsh Guards, they screamed and shouted. If you moved, they screamed and shouted. Yeah, they were ruthless.
It's a chargeable offence getting sunburnt in the military, isn't it? Did you know that?
Well, I know there's a lot of silly chargeable offences, but
go on, tell me. I'm guessing you've been charged for a thing or two, Steve.
You know what? I did spend a bit of time in Colchester.
Go on, yeah.
But that was for fighting the usual Squaddie stuff. But no, I didn't. I got away with everything. That's my thing.
Well, yeah, that's the main aim, isn't it?
Yeah, I was good at getting away with stuff.
It's not illegal unless you get caught, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Right. So this Grenadier Guard story. Have we got any information on it? Because I can't believe that they're getting. Like, what does it say? No, that's the next one. Grenadier Guards undertake fit role inspection ahead of royal duties. Now, we spoke to a guardsman today at the muster point in Stevenage, and he said something about it, that it was the Major General of the Guards has to come out and inspect them and make sure that they're fit for purpose. You got anything on it? Go on, read it out. What'd you get?
Members of the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards have been under the microscope with their fit for role inspection at Lille Barracks. After 5 years of operational duties, the Guards will take on ceremonial duties. 5 years without doing that. I thought
that's all they'd done.
Yeah, I thought that's all they did.
To be fair, I was on Op Herrick 11 was the Grenadier Guards battle group, wasn't it? But bloody hell.
Yeah, I was with the Welsh Guards on Herrick 10.
What operational tours have they been on in the last 5 years?
I don't know, when I was in Afghanistan with them during Panther's Claw, they just stood there guarding platoon houses. And They were good lads. They were good lads.
They are good lads. I remember the one of the platoon officers. He always had his guitar out, middle of an O group, playing the guitar, and I see him on Good Morning Britain or whatever it was for a few years later, and he still had his bloody guitar. And I was chatting to the Gren Guard that comes to see us Tuesday mornings, and apparently the fucker's still bloody playing that bloody guitar. He thinks he's going to be the next James Blunt, but he hasn't got anywhere with it. I mean, that was a bit of a weak story. I apologise for that. It sounded a lot better than it was, but it just sounds like a standard inspection. Are we going to do this final one about the inheritance tax, or is that really boring?
I think that's really boring, and I don't think. I think the politicians need to relook at that.
Basically, the story goes: Labour force grieving military families to pay inheritance tax. I mean, that headline is a bit cutthroat, isn't it? But we know what the military's like. So, not the military, the media. They like to sensationalise stuff. But if you have any experience, or if this is affecting you, then give us a shout in, and we'll look into it further. Anything else? Right, a listener hook. Do you want to read it out? Have you got it in front of you, Steve? Posing this question.
What's the listener hook?
Just there. So just below the news. Bloody hell. Working with Tank Regiment. God bless me.
I'm on the wrong page.
He's on the wrong page. There we go. You good? There's a saying in podcasting, like, dead air is bad air.
Well, I've got a challenge for our listeners. What's the funniest thing you've ever had in a kit inspection? Or what's the funniest thing that ever happened during a kit inspection? I've sent a text out to some of my mates, so let's see what response we get. Please message us and let us know.
I'm just trying to think about kit inspections or room inspections in particular. I can think of a few funny ones. But as Steve said, so as it's the first one, if you're listening to this now, like, contact us, Twitter, or X as it's called, Facebook, email us at themusterpointstevenage@gmail.com, and let us hear your funny, your answers to Steve's question, and maybe we'll read them out in the future episode. But I'm gonna get on it now and actually send it to my mates as well. See what replies we get, and we'll get back to you later on in the show. All right, so now we're going to come to the main part of the show called, what are we calling it? No, where am I? I'm lost. Where am I? Where's my map, sir? Where's my map? Right, frontline focus. What's the muster point? Define the podcast, who we are, what our mission is. Go, Steve.
Well, I'm very active with my tanky brotherhood. We meet up several times a year, and it's nice to escape the modern day dilemmas we face. We don't judge each other. The banter's off the Richter scale, but we do have moments where we check in on each other. We keep an eye on each other. The muster point gives me the buzz of what it was like being in the army, about the way you're horrible to each other, but you get it straight back, but there's no malice behind it. Bit like being in the squadron bar, in an Effie bar. That's what the muster point gives me. What about you, Stu?
What about me? Well, obviously, so the journey behind the muster point and me and Steve. So the muster point, obviously you got this podcast, but before that, so at the beginning of the year, we set up the muster point in Stevenage about the drop-in. So what's the drop-in? Tell do you want to share the story of the drop-in and how that came about?
Well, through my casework with Safa, I got told to go and have a chat with Stu, because he works with a charity that supports people with drugs, alcohol issues.
Issues, yeah.
Basically, Squaddies.
Yeah, exactly. There's a few of us.
But yeah, so we become friends, and we had a chat, and we both suggest in Stevenage there isn't really anything for veterans. We had a dream that we would set up some sort of a breakfast club, drop-in centre. We got the ball rolling, and we come up with the muster point. Basically, we've got a venue next to a cafe. We've got loads of tea bags, coffee, biscuits. We have a brew,
bottles of Coke.
Yeah, bottles of Coke. We have a brew. We have a lot of banter, bacon sandwich, and it's quite refreshing. And we all gang up, Navy, Army. We all gang up on the Air Force. So,
Yeah, damn right, especially the RAF Reg.
Oh yeah, don't even start.
Who's your mate that was RAF Reg? Can you name him?
Chizard, he calls himself.
Chizard.
Yeah, because he looks like a cross between a chicken and a lizard.
Oh God, that reminds me of another thing about army or military. Sorry, military nicknames. And I'll tell you what, listeners, if you've got any good military nicknames, send them in. But so obviously we created the physical hub in Stevenage, and the guys and girls come along, have a bite to eat, have that banter. But we wanted it to be more than that, didn't we, Steve?
Yeah, it's a hub. We've had people from all different services, all sharing their experiences. We've got all the big charities and organisations all give us their backing. We've got all the pamphlets, leaflets from everyone there available for people. We've made booklets up with a little bit of everything, so people can take that sort of discreetly. And we encourage everyone to take one of these leaflets, whether they use it or not. That's up to them, but it's there if they need it. And that's what we're hoping to be able to provide to the community.
Yeah, because what was it like? I know when I left in 2010, I struggled finding support. There are charities out there that support veterans. There is support out there for veterans, but I just didn't know which way to turn, especially when my head ain't in the right space. It's sort of, I don't know which way to look. And for me, it's about that, having that central point where people or veterans can get the support or pointed in the right direction. I was wondering, when you came out, Steve, what was it like? Because we came out about the same time, didn't we? 2010.
Completely different circumstance. I chose to leave because I had the ump, so I signed off.
What did you have the ump with?
I was in Afghanistan and I wanted to go straight back out there, but I got told I can't. So I stuck my fingers up and said, I'll sign off then because I'll get what I want then. It was at a time where they weren't letting people sign back on. So I got out. Anyway, I didn't need any support at the time. I just cracked on with life. But I missed that brotherhood, camaraderie. Started to go down the pub, got involved with football. That gave me that buzz, but the booze, it wasn't healthy. Not the amount I was drinking anyway. But anyway, met my missus. She put me on the straight and narrow. And I still keep in touch with all my army mates. And a couple of years ago, I was in France it was the 105th anniversary of the Battle of Cambrai, or Cambrai, if he was an officer. Big battle in the tank regiment. And I got
was there a lot of big battles in the tank regiment?
There was one. But yeah, I got talking to a couple of mates, and they was asking me about certain experiences, and it made me feel different. I almost cried. I had emotion in me, and one of them thanked me for sharing that story. And it's almost like that opened a floodgate up, if you like, of emotions that come out of me. And from there, I don't know what to say I went downhill, but I started experiencing flashbacks, all that sort of stuff, nightmares, a lot more than I'd ever done before. But I think I tended to hide that with booze a lot of the time. Anyway, it got to a point where I thought I'd better get some help here. It ain't fair on my family. So I did. I reached out to several charities, and it was Help for Heroes that actually helped me. And I actually contacted them for someone else, got talking to them, and they said, we've got this hidden wounds department. Had some sessions with them, and I felt a lot better. So I think I nipped it in the bud early, and it hasn't been an issue in my life, which is what I'd encourage anyone to do. Really, don't bottle things up. Talk to each other. Come to the muster point in Stevenage, and have a chat.
That's a good point. If you are local to Stevenage, would be what's the word? I've lost for words. Give me a word. Welcoming. That's it. We'll be welcoming. It'd be good to see you. If you go to the Facebook page, the details for the venue are on there every Tuesday, 10 till 12. And so actually that's just where we've come from. And it's stories like, so one of the older veterans that comes along, he messaged us, didn't he, and said that he'd been sent this letter basically demanding money. Like it was from the NHS. It was like an official letter, but it was sort of saying, oh, you've claimed something wrong, and it was so threatening. And we sat down with him today and went through it, read it, and basically we're going to be able to resolve it for him. And it's little things like that. The breakfast and the shit banter is good, but actually doing something tangible for the community is what I think makes the muster point.
Yeah.
Because for me, you mentioned their Help for Heroes. You got Safa. I see what is it, Veterans Lottery or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
British
I mean,
Legion.
British Legion, and from my experience, having been blown up and losing an eye, I was fortunate enough that I'm a member of BLESMA, which is the British Limbless Ex-Servicemen's Association. But I don't know. I just feel that it's a bit of a minefield. Excuse the pun. Not knowing where to turn, and especially like, I mean, we read that letter today, and it's very threatening. Like, oh, you've made this mistake. You're in the wrong. You're going to get fined, and I think that certainly needs changing. And I think to myself, if we hadn't set up the muster point, what would happen there? I mean, who's going to resolve that? Like, I don't know. But that's what we're here for. That camaraderie, the banter, but also the bigger picture of actually supporting veterans. And again, coming back to the fact of this is our listeners' podcast, and we want to engage with you. Like, we'll get you on, we'll phone you. If you've got anything good to say about organisations, if you've got anything bad to say, I don't know if we'll get away with like slander or whatever it is.
But I think the best person for supporting a veteran is another veteran, in my experience. And I know my casework with SAFA, I've gone around people's houses, and they've thanked me just for having a chat and a bit of banter. It's refreshing for them, it's not too serious, and all their problems have been resolved through SAFA. But they've helped me as well. We've had a chat. They've shared their stories about Germany in 1968 when they was in Saltar, pissed as a fart, driving a tank, whatever it may be. And it's just, talking to each other is and having that regular meeting. I think that's good for people.
Yeah, without a doubt. And this is the thing, obviously, Stevenage is one location, and that was the point behind the podcast. Let's try and spread the word and just support each other. That's the key, isn't it? Right?
Most towns have a breakfast club, a drop-in centre. The British Legion clubs, although a lot of these places have been watered down with non-veterans being members, but there are exclusive, like I say, breakfast clubs, things like that, and it's good. I went to one in Poole. I think it was in a pub called the Foundry,
full of bootnecks, was it?
Tankies and bootnecks.
Oh yeah.
And it was nice. It was just the banter was there, but they all support each other, old and young, and it's good. And it is good to support each other, like you say. The younger people helping the elderly with paperwork.
Exactly.
But, and the elderly can tell the younger people really obscene jokes.
Yeah. Have you got any obscene jokes?
Well, not for this channel.
Okay. I did mean to say, like, I've noticed I'm swearing, but I didn't want to make it too sweary. I did have a question for you, Steve, and it's completely left me. Yeah, that was it. So the other, obviously, I got injured when I come out, and I mean, I didn't get medically discharged or nothing. It was like, and you're bedding in, off you go. But we'll cover that in a different story. But that thing around transitioning to civilian life, like, I think that is quite a big thing. That, I mean, being in the armed forces, you're sort of told when to eat, told when to sleep, told when to do your business, whatever. And then coming out, it's sort of, it's on you, fella. Yeah, crack on.
Yeah, you got to pay bills. You got to pay for water.
Yeah, I know. What's that all about?
It ruins your kettle. Yeah. Lime scale everywhere. You got to pay for that stuff.
And so I don't know about you. So I was my trade was a surveyor in the Royal Engineers. So I'd done my 12-week basic training. I'd done 10 weeks to be a combat engineer, and then I think it was the best part of just under a year trade training. So that's like almost 2 years of training to go from being a civilian to being a fully trained Royal Engineer. And then on the other side, I know my experience is a bit different, but I went from the front line of Afghanistan to being a civilian in 6 months. Didn't integrate with the blokes because they were still on tour or on post-tour leave. No therapy, no counselling, no how you doing. As I said, and you're bedding in and off you go. What about you, Steve? I know you shared a bit about that transition.
I joined the army when I was 16. Done my training at Bassingbourne. I think that was 18 weeks, my basic training. Went to Bovington. That was about 4 months, learning to drive tanks, done signals, map reading, all that sort of stuff. I signed off when I was in Afghanistan in October. We come back from Afghanistan, I think it was December. So I was out of the army, within a year. And it weren't nice, to be fair. It's a big culture shock. Luckily, I had family and friends who supported me, but I didn't have any close. There was nothing where I lived at the time in North London. There weren't anything for veterans. And then I moved away to Stevenage, and again, there was nothing there. I know some areas there's a lot more for veterans, but this part of the country there isn't really. So,
did you get your duty 3-day CV writing course?
It was really good, thank you.
Yeah. Did it come in use?
He's got me out of work for 3 days. But
yeah, exactly.
I did my resettlement. I learnt to drive diggers, dumpers, fork trucks, all that sort of stuff. It cost me a few quid, but the army paid for most of it. And then I found out that the certificates I'd been given they weren't really worth anything. So I had to go and then do it all again with a more recognised company to get accredited.
It's like, I don't know, in the Royal Engineers, we had the infamous motorcycle licence where a shit job you wanted to be done. So you would be put on a parade day. Who wants to get their motorcycle licence? Every smog and put their hand up and it'd be right, come with me. Army shit course is brilliant. Yeah, join up.
The best course I ever done was a photography course.
Go on.
RAF Cosford. Yeah. It's like Pontins. It is brilliant. There's nightclubs, there's bowling alleys, there's more pubs than most high streets have. And, so big shout out to RAF Cosford.
Happy days, there's one for you.
And you could drink at lunchtime as well.
Bloody hell. What was you taking pictures of? It wasn't like life art or whatever you call it. No,
we was going you got Wolverhampton. A lot of people do the same course. Go to Wolverhampton on a car park and take pictures of the public. Yeah. And then at the end of the you learn how to
you go on a photography course to take pictures of people in a car park
from a car park. You learn the ins and outs of the camera. It's really good course. And then on the last day, he says if you switch the camera to auto, it does everything for you.
Fully.
Which was handy because I forgot everything because I was pissed the whole time I was on the course.
Love it, absolutely love it. So yeah, during the podcast, we're going to have different sections. I would have written them down, but for example, we've got some banter ones. We're going to be remembering some fallen comrades. We're going to have plenty of, and I keep saying it, listener interaction. But how many listeners do you think we've got right now? 4?
Yeah.
Bloody hell! What's that? Me, you,
my cat and dog.
There, I was. Yeah. Shout out. Go on. What's the cat's name? Tanky. How sad is that? Let it go, brother. Let it go. Right. So one of the segments we're going to have is stories from the Sanger. So over to you, Steve, with your story from the Sanger.
Well, it's not really a Sanger story because I weren't in the RAF Reg. But it was on the eve of Panther's Claw, the infamous Panther's Claw. We was leagued up in the desert with the Americans. I was trying to get a few winks. Everyone was doing press-up competitions, man tests in the desert. The Americans, I think, were winning because they were doing press-ups with 7 blokes on their backs, all that sort of stuff they do. And I was woken up and peer-pressured. I didn't do it voluntarily. I was peer-pressured into eating a lizard. Someone had found this lizard. It was about 6 or 7 inches long. And I was guilted into eating it. I had to eat it for the regiment. And I did. I swallowed it whole and everyone cheered. And I think we beat the Americans. For about 3 or 4 weeks after that, I was checking every time I went to the toilet. You had them silver bags you go in the desert. And it weren't there.
The infamous porter, John.
Yeah, so it was never in one of them bags. So I must have digested it or it's still in me. But and it improved morale and it was spoke about for a long time. So.
Steve the lizard eater. Well, that sounds horrendous, doesn't it? Just imagine getting your fat one down before an op goes in. It's like that. Wake up, Steve. Eat this. Get it in ya.
Yeah, it was. I was peer pressured, like I said.
I don't believe you. So that's stories from the Sanger. As I said, if you've got any of your own, which can be eating a lizard on the eve of Operation Panther's Claw in the middle of a desert with a load of Yanks, then send them in. Again, it's you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, email the musterpointstevenage@gmail.com. So just out of interest, Steve, what did the lizard taste like?
Haribo.
Haribo?
Haribo.
Bloody hell. What sort of what, like the egg ones or?
Lizard one.
Lizard one. And you can find the video of you on YouTube, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Have you still got it? We'll get it up on social media and that, so everyone can have a look at Steve being forced.
Yeah, peer pressure. And you can see me being peer pressure.
Haribo. Right, so now we're going to go into a bit of a serious period that the Muster Point podcast. It's called the Roll Call, and we're going to have some reflections on some fallen brothers and sisters. Again, if you want to send in any memories of people that have since passed, more than welcome to, and we'll share them. But Steve's got a story that he wants to share.
Yeah, it's a time of year that's coming close. The 100 British soldier to die in Iraq was a friend of mine called Gordon Pritchard. He was in the Scotch Dragoon Guards, and I was attached to the Scotch Dragoon Guards on Optelic 7. He was a lovely bloke, a great big bloke, but everyone's friend. He cared about everyone. He was the heart of the squadron. He really was. We left camp one day. I think we was going to Kuwait to do a resupply, a bit of a Bakshi patrol. Unfortunately, his vehicle was struck by an IED, and he lost his life. It was a horrible day. The whole squadron. I'd known him about 6-7 months. We was welcome to their squadron, like brothers, and it really knocked our squadron back. And it wasn't just him; the rest of the crew in the vehicle was a Land Rover. It was a snatch. They was all really badly injured, broken bones and cuts and bruises, whatnot. 31st of January 2006 is the day he died.
Bloody hell. And it is sad when you think about it, how, I mean, I know 2009 in Afghanistan we lost, what was it, 109 blokes that year, and girls. I know we have a lot of banter, and that's a coping mechanism, isn't it? It gets us through, but particularly, I don't know about you, Steve, but I served in Afghanistan with some 18-year-old lads, and they certainly get exposed to the worst side of life.
Yeah.
And maybe if you've got any pictures of your mucker, we can put them up on social media.
Yeah, some nice pictures of him. I was only 19 at the time when that happened. We was also young, to be fair. I think 19 was probably the majority of the British Army.
Yeah.
It was a young army at that point. Yeah.
And I think these memories are so important for what the Muster Point stands for, because, I mean, when you think about it, like am I right in thinking there's no World War I Tommies left alive?
No.
And you see the last year's D-Day Landings Parade up in Normandy, and you see the World War II vets. I mean, in a few years, they're all going to be gone, and I think it's our duty to remember these stories and these individuals, and so their memory lives on.
Definitely, and the Korean War veterans. There's not many of them.
Yeah,
and a big shout out to them. Because their story's never really been told.
Yeah.
So I'd love it if any Korean War veterans could, or their family members could get in touch with them and share their stories.
And you make a good point there. You've just said it there about family members, because we want to try and make the Muster Point for families and people that are interested in the forces. Any young people, like, I'm sure we'll create an episode on military life on a bit more of a serious note and what to expect on your first parade and stuff like that. But also, like, the stories, if you've got a grandparent or a family member that has passed, but you know their story from World War I or Korea or whenever, like, please send them in, because we need to keep these stories alive and in people's memories.
Even stupid stories. Like, my dad died a few years ago, and like an idiot, he didn't do too much in the army. He was just drunk. He pissed the old time he's in the army. You know what I mean?
Who did he serve with?
He was in the 40th Field Regiment Royal Artillery. He's based in Gütersloh in the 60s, early 70s. But when he died, my missus reached out on a Facebook group to the regiment and asking if anyone remembered him and have they got any stories? And one of the blokes went, yeah, I remember him. He was a bit of a character. He didn't like shaving. So to get out of shaving, he started putting Brasso on his face. So it irritated his face so bad that the doctor gave him a sick chit, so he didn't have to shave. What a prat. Like, just shave, but yeah.
And of course, nowadays you can grow a beard.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But like, that was my dad, Joe Black. You know, I think stories like that are funny, just stupid, pretty insignificant stories, but they're the sort of things that I love hearing.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
stupid
exactly.
things.
Joe Black, it sounds like a superhero.
He was played by Brad Pitt in a film.
Oh, was he?
A bit like today, when we was at the muster point earlier on, and one of the old blokes was saying he was in Borneo, in the jungle, and he was in an ambush, and he thought he'd been shot, so he screamed and shouted for the medic because his lower back had been shot. Turns out it was an ant bite. But, it was a 30mm long ant, but it was an ant. And he got taken a piss out for years for that. But stories like that I think we need to carry on sharing because they're funny.
Exactly.
They just get forgotten, and it's funny.
And that's the thing, innit? Like that's how our squaddies deal with it and having that banter. And I think we owe it to the people that have gone before us that have fallen to carry these stories through. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a generation of people that don't turn up for remembrance parades, which I think will be absolutely criminal.
I love, you go to, I've been to France, I've been to Belgium, I've seen the graveyards, and I quite often, it's a bit of a funny one, I quite often wonder, what graffiti would they have wrote in the Sanger? Them old 100 years ago, when they was on guard, what sort of stuff would they have wrote in that Sanger about their mate's mum?
Because that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I was lucky enough that my granddad wrote a memoir about his time in World War II, and I read it, and it's that you think, there was the best part of 70 years between me and my granddad's service and that, and it's like, am I right there? Is my maths correct? Yeah. Sorry, I had a moment there.
You was an engineer, you should know your maths.
I know, I should do, shouldn't I? And I read this story of fighting through North Africa and up through Italy, and there's so many comparisons, so it's the same banter. And I know we see it at the muster point in Stevenage, like there's no boundaries, is there, with age? It's like the stories carry through. It's the same banter, the same.
Like I said, I was sat on the table with 3 generations. There was me, Iraq and Afghanistan. There was another bloke, 1970s. He spent 2.5 years, I think, in Northern Ireland. And before that, this bloke in Borneo. And we was all laughing and taking the mickey out of each other, saying, what one's worse? And the banter was the same. The stories are the same. And that's what's great about the British forces. No matter what generation, you've got that respect for each other. And we all respect each other. And it's one of
apart from the RAF Reg, right?
From the RAF Reg.
Although we would be interested from hearing from any RAF Reg that have got a story about the Battle of Bastion. Because obviously they're known as the fourth member of FSFG. Am I like stand toe to toe with the Paras and all that?
RAF SAS.
RAF SAS, love it. But again, what's your mate's name? Chizzard. We'll get Chizzard on.
Yeah. He was in that battle, I think. He had to put his cup and saucer down in that Sanger.
Oh, did he?
He nearly spilt it. Yeah, he nearly spilt his Earl Grey.
But he's got a maid to clear up after.
Right? Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking RAF Reg. Right, so what we're going on to now, we asked the question earlier on, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you during a kit inspection, room inspection, anything you've witnessed? Obviously, if you're listening now, send us your stories in, but as we haven't got any listeners yet, Steve's messaged some of his mates. What we got, Steve?
Well, my mate Damo, he reckons...
Go on.
He reckons his corporal in training was going through his locker and found a picture of his daughter with no clothes on.
What, Damo's daughter?
No, the corporal's daughter. I dread to think how many show phrases he got for that.
Bloody hell. Any more? We got any more good ones?
No one's got back to me. I haven't really got many friends.
But, poor Steve. Let's get the violins out. Come on.
I've got one about myself. It weren't a locker inspection, but we was going on Christmas leave or something. And this was when I was in my regiment. Our squadron leader was an Australian bloke, proper nice bloke. But I had a pet snake. And he used to go around the block before we went on leave and check, the fridges and stuff like that. Well, I put my snake in the microwave because I knew he liked microwaves. He had a thing about clean microwaves. So we all stood out in our rooms. We had lovely Z-type accommodation. So we all stood there, and he's gone in the kitchen. We're like, yeah, wait for this. And then we heard, fucking hell, mate. And he found my snake in the microwave. But he laughed it off and never come around our rooms. So Yeah, he didn't see all the holes in the cupboards and all that.
Oh, nice. Good mate of mine, Stan Stanley, Geordie lad. So we
Is it in Geordie?
No, it's not in Geordie. I don't know. My mind's just gone blank. All I need to do is read. So he sent one in. So a lad at Chatham, Brompton Barracks in Chatham, actually had a real Desert Eagle handgun, hadn't they? It's like that off the old Lock Stock films, wasn't it? Desert Eagle. Yeah, that's it. He had one of them in his locker for a room inspection that he'd bought from Ghana, along with 3 boxes of ammo. I mean, imagine explaining that. What else we got? Where are we? Here you go. So this one's from Peter Parkins, ex-Grenadier Guard. One morning on a kit locker inspection, the platoon sergeant, a mad jock, and he's got in brackets here, he was fucking mad, named Davy Ball, found mud on the bottom of one of Pete's DMS boots. He then decided to throw it out of what he thought was an open window. However, it wasn't open. Then all you heard was the tinkle of broken glass. And Pete was told to report to the company quartermaster sergeant, who then billed him for the broken window. But it was a lesson learnt because, as Pete says, guess who never had any mud on any of his kit after that. And that was the thing. The bullshit in those room inspections was incredible, wasn't it? Like, here we go. We got another one from Paul Child, ex-Royal Anglian. Room inspection in Colchester, Elizabeth Barracks. Sergeant walks in and we are all standing there by our beds at attention with our lockers open. The sergeant walks up to the first locker, Taft's locker. The sergeant pulls out a dirty mess tin hidden at the back of his locker. What the fuck is this, he says. A mess tin, sergeant. Take your berry off, says the sergeant. Wallop. The sergeant whacks Taft over the head with the mess tin. How long has it been in there? Asked the sergeant. I don't know, sergeant. It was clean when I put it in there. The sergeant then detonates and beats Taft with the mess tin, leaving him lying crumpled in his locker. The room inspection then continued without incident while Taft remained lying in his locker and the remaining 5 of them in the room trying not to get caught laughing. That's all we got. We got a few others, but that's what we'll start with. I'm trying to. I used to love. Like, because I went through training regiment. I joined at, what was I, 21. I wanted to be there. I was like, yeah, this is me. And in 2005, it had sort of started going a bit politically correct sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Not as bad as some of the stories I've heard now. But put it this way, there were some young lads were there going, why are they making us do press-ups? And I was like, you've joined the British Army, mate, not the Girl Guides, or that's probably doing a disservice to the Girl Guides. But I used to love it. Like, we'd have a room inspection, and my old mate Ross, I can't remember his surname. Can't be that good a mate, but Ross. So he was stood in the bed space opposite me, and the troop sergeant and troop officer, troop commander would come round and inspect and that. And I'd be there, stood prim and proper to attention, happy days, and then they'd turn round to Ross. And I'll basically start giving him the wanker sign and that. And he'd start cracking up. And as soon as they turn around, I'd be deadpan straight. There you go. And he'd get thrashed for it. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, so, I mean, keep sending them in. If you've got any more, obviously, we want to hear from you.
Certain inspections used to make me laugh. You know, when you're out in the field, especially in basic training, and you have to lower your kit out on a roll mat, it's pissing down the rain, mud everywhere, and you're getting inspected, and they're checking everything.
Yeah.
You can never pass. And then you get beasted around the track plan. I remember one of the punishments we used to get was get your entrenching tool out, like a pickaxe, and you had to drag yourself around the track pan. You know, it was just nonsense.
I have had another one. It's just come through. Let's have a look. Where is it? So, just as you were saying, that's what reminded me of a kit inspection in the field. My mate Sam Stone Street, he was punished and had to run 400 metres and then koala himself up against a tree. Now, you're laughing at me. Go on, explain what koala-ing is to those that may not.
When you have to jump as high as you can and wrap your legs and arms around a tree and just stay there.
But for us, it was upside down. So it was like that. You were bear hugging a tree trunk, but you were upside down.
We was the right way up.
So anyway, my mate Sam, he says he ran the 400 metres, jumped onto the first tree he saw and commanded himself. Started to slip down because he was absolutely hanging out of his hoop. And part of the branch snapped off and pierced his ball bag. Oh, just imagine that happening in a civvy training job. Bloody hell. It's brilliant, though. No, there would have been no comeback for that either. No. It's like Pete shared with us. It's like, yeah, I've smashed that window, but you're paying for it. I always look back with sort of rose-tinted spectacles. I do like, I'd do it all over again. Yeah. What do you reckon, Steve?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And like, bear in mind, like during them inspections, you probably only had 3 or 4 hours sleep in a night.
Yeah, exactly.
You're exhausted.
Talking about lack of sleep. Obviously, being a raw engineer, I remember it was on my, my carder to get promoted to the dizzying heights of Lance Corporal. And again, we've been getting thrashed all day and all night, and we got woken up about 2 a.m. and put into this sweltering hot porter cabin and made to watch the film Zulu. Now, obviously, Zulu is the Battle of Rorke's Drift, where obviously the raw engineer officer, hoo-ha, basically manned the guns and took over. Surely everyone that's served has watched Zulu. So it's a black and white film. It goes on for about 3 hours. And basically the DS turned around and said, like, we'll come back in once the film's finished and you'll have to answer loads of questions on it. Absolutely horrendous.
When I was at Bassingbourne, we used to watch, we had a cinema there, because Full Metal Jacket was filmed at Bassingbourne. Yeah. We used to watch that as a Saturday treat, same film every week for 18 weeks. Good film.
Yeah. What other? There you go. There's another one for you. Like favourite military films. Obviously, Zulu is not one of mine. Oh God. So basically, as we keep saying, find us on Facebook and all the social medias. Next episode, we're going to be talking about military firsts. So whether that's your first deployment, first kit inspection, first major mistake, or first time under fire, anything, we want to hear from you. Have you got any first, Steve?
First time I had to go shooting a tank. I've been trained, but I was never a gunner. I went from a drive. Normally in a tank, you go driver, gunner, loader, commander. Well, I missed the gunner slot. So I was a loader. And by the end of the range period, we had loads of ammo left. So I said to the sergeant major, any chance I can have a go? He went, get yourself a crew together, get a load of ammo and go and go down the range and shoot some targets. So I got my mates together. It was like Kelly's Heroes. We've gone down this range. I was shooting bushes, trees, everything. There weren't any proper targets. It was just bits and pieces. And I feel terrible now, but this poor lonely sheep walked in front. And I moved slugs and worms off the path now. But this sheep walked into my sight and I shot it with a fin round, which is the anti-tank round. It didn't suffer, I know that, because it was, these rounds travel at 2,500 meters a second. But yeah, the first time I shot a tank was I shot a sheep, and I'm not proud of it, but it was really funny at the time. Now, my driver though, he had the stupidest list, but worse than my list. Like he could just about talk, and all I could hear was him pissing himself, laughing, spitting everywhere. He's a sergeant major now, I think.
Oh, he's
spitting at everyone.
Right, so military first is next week. Now it's almost time to wrap up. So each week we're going to dedicate a section to talking about a organisation that supports veterans, because, as I said, like the muster points about that support. So if we can highlight the good work people are doing out there, then I think it really makes a difference. So again, if you've got experience or you run an organisation that supports veterans, then please let us know. But today, we're gonna talk about SAFA.
Yeah, well, a few years ago, I wanted to do a bit more supporting veterans, so I googled it and look at
googled it.
I googled it, I should know. I wanted to do a bit of charity work anyway. Found SAFA were looking for voluntary caseworkers, so I thought I'll have some of that. Done all my training. I had an interview, successful. Done all my training. And I go around now. I don't know how many cases I've done now, but it's not just veterans; it's their families as well and serving personnel. It could be anything from needing a new washing machine to a stair lift. You know, they can help with anything. But yeah, SAFA, a great charity. Everyone in the forces has heard of SAFA. In fact, when I was in the army, if you had welfare problems, you was known as a right SAFA. It was an insult. But it really is a good charity. It's the oldest military charity. It's 140 years old this year. It's the oldest tri-service military charity. Not a lot of people know that. But so SAFA, the way SAFA work is I will do an interview with the client and then work out what they need. And then I will speak to all the other military charities on their behalf and get the funding to get whatever they need. So, yeah, big shout out to SAFA.
Do you know what? It's funny because, as you said, like everybody, well, I believe everyone's heard of SAFA. And certainly I had, but I had no real appreciation for what they do. Again, it was another name that I'd heard of, but I didn't know what support they offered. And certainly, obviously, since we've known each other, I've referred some veterans that I'm working with to SAFA. So how do people get referred?
Yeah,
can they self-refer?
Yeah. If you go online, you can just search SAFA. It will give you. They have regional hubs, so you speak to the hub. They might be able to help you directly. They're really good. But if you do need further support, they will assign you a caseworker who will get in touch with you, do an interview, get plenty of information, and they will work on your behalf. They will, speak to the British Legion. If you're Army, it'd be the Army Benevolent Fund. Every regiment in the Army has its own charity.
Yeah.
Plus all the civilian charities and organisation, they will speak to everyone and get what you need. And I've always been successful every case I've had. So, and not a lot of people know what it stands for as well. It's Soldiers, Sailors, Airmen's Families Association.
All right, yeah. I thought it was Air Force, to be fair. But yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that in your name, would it?
No, you wouldn't.
What? So literally, that they could support veterans and
families, yeah,
with anything.
Yeah.
If in doubt, go to SAFA.
Yeah. Whether it's removal costs, like say washing machine, carpets, anything you need, they can help you.
Yeah.
Or give you advice anyway.
And again, we'll I'll put the link in somewhere. I'll put the link somewhere if as Steve says, Google it. Google SAFA, and it's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So what have we spoken about today? Pretty much, I hope we've explained what our intentions are.
We've said who we are.
Who we are. Well, and don't get me wrong, obviously, we've got to leave room for movement and improvement. You don't want to excel straight away. We'll share more about ourselves. We'll share more stories. We'll share more support. And, what do you reckon, Steve?
Well, other than the lizard and the sheep, no more animals were harmed in my in my story.
The dog and cat are still alive. Yeah. They're somewhere around here.
I've got dinner later.
And as we said, a big shout out to Mark Ormerod and that incredible feat that he done. I don't know why I'm giving him a shout out because he may not be listening, but
a big shout out to the Grenadier Guards for just doing their job.
Yep. And I hope they pass that inspection.
I'm sure they will.
And everyone that's messaged us, I hope you don't mind that I've used your names, but tough. It's done now, isn't it? So yeah, right. And as I said, we're like next week is military firsts, whether that's first deployment, first kit inspection, first major mistake, first time with a lady of the night, whatever you want to share. Probably is now a good time to share it because we don't have any listeners, so you're not going to get caught red-handed, caught with your pants down, as they say. All right, before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. As I keep saying throughout the episode, this podcast isn't just about us. It's about the whole community, veterans, families and organisations out there making a difference. Every story, every laugh and every lesson helps us keep the camaraderie alive. That's what the muster point is all about.
A big shout out to all the organisations, charities, groups that support anyone with mental health, the community outreach centres, and let us know. Let us do a shout out for you. So send us a message on Twitter, X, Facebook, any social media platform, or email us.
And don't forget to subscribe to the Muster Point on your favourite podcast platform. Leave us a review and share this episode with your mates. It's like sharing a brew in the mess hall, just without the dodgy tea.
And next week, we'll be diving into first time. So if you've got any first time stories, first time contact, first time, first inspection, any first times, let us know. And also your funny stories from an inspection, please get in touch with us and let us know.
Yeah, you won't want to miss it. So make sure you're here next week at the muster point. And with that, parade, fall out.
You heard the man. See you next week.